Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Henry Schein Dental Academy webinar series. My name is Adam, and I'll be your moderator. Today, we're joined by Lindsay Salazar, and she will share 7 ways to improve your claim quality and reduce denials, adjustments, and write-offs. At any point during the webinar, we certainly encourage your participation. Please type any questions you might have into the Q&A section of your control panel, and we'll answer them live at the end of the presentation. Henry Schein is not offering CE credit for viewing or attending this presentation live or on demand. And this webinar is sponsored by Henry Schein's Dental Business Institute, as well as eAssist Dental Solutions. So with that, I would like to welcome Lindsay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. I'm in Utah, and I want to thank everyone for taking a few minutes out of their time right now to join Adam and I on this amazing webinar. And I know you'll find this information I'm going to share very helpful. And as Adam mentioned, any questions you have, please drop them in the Q&A. We will do Q&A at the end. But as the next 30 to 35 minutes go by, anything you have questions on, don't hesitate to put them in the Q&A. So a little bit about eAssist. We invented optimized revenue cycle management and front office services for dentists. For more than 10 years, eAssist has been putting more money back into the pocket of the nation's dedicated dentists, reducing the stress of their teams and creating more reliable cash flow. Our team is made up of 1,354 dental billing experts serving over 1,900 dental offices and DSOs. To date, we have collected more than $6.31 billion from insurance companies. So we definitely do deliver a peace of mind. We have the opportunity to have many awards to have collected because of what we do. We've made the Inc. 500, the Inc. 5000, CDA endorsed program, Entrepreneur 360, Financial Times, Great Place to Work, Certified 2020, Fastest 50, as well as the Fortune 100 Best Companies to Work For in 2021. Some big accomplishments that we're very proud of. And we're so grateful for all of our team members with eAssist that have definitely helped us to reach this. So outsourcing can help your practice profitability. We have multiple services that we offer to dental practices. Listed here, you'll see dental insurance billing and aging, dental coaching and consulting, insurance ready credentialing, insurance verification and eligibility, dental practice accounting, bookkeeping and payroll, patient portion statements and billing, and full schedule patient recall and retention. So a lot of great services that we offer to help ease the stress at the front desk, but also to help increase that bottom line for your practice. So a little bit about myself. I've been in dentistry for over 22 years. I started in the dental field as a hygiene coordinator and then continued on as a dental practice management specialist and consultant. With my clinical administrative experience, I bring valuable insight and understanding to your dental team. I definitely look forward to being a support and coach to your dental team, investing in your practice, creating leaders, and producing long-term results. I am a part of the dental coaching department, which is fairly new to eAssist. So if you're on here and you already are a part of eAssist and you would like to know more information about our Dental Coaching Institute, don't hesitate to reach out. Be happy to share more of how we can support you and your team. And so here are a few things that I'd like to share, what I hope you will learn from participating today. Number one, what insurance companies are looking for on a claim in order to process payment back to you quickly. Number two, the best tools and resources every dental biller and coder should use to make sure they are maximizing reimbursements for the practice. And number three, how to review each claim for accuracy prior to submitting to your insurance company. So a little side note before I get more into all of this information, you will be getting a copy of these slides, so don't feel like you need to take pictures of your screen or hurry and write notes down. Again, you will get copies of this. And so I'm excited to share with you a lot of great tips and tricks. So please put your questions in the Q&A. We'll answer those And my goal over the next hour is to give you more tools to increase your revenue cycle, create a smooth system in your claim submission. All right, we have a poll, and I would love for everyone to take a minute to participate. And the question is, do you currently collect 100% of what's rightfully owed to you from insurance companies? Your three options. The first is yes, my team is amazing, they get it all for me. Or no, I wish I had more money coming in from those insurance claims that are outstanding. Or definitely not. Maybe just not surely aware of where those numbers are at. So go ahead and take a few minutes, select which one best fits your knowledge of the practice, and we would love to see your results so we can see what's going on out there. How's it looking, Adam?
Well, this is by far the highest participation I've ever seen in a poll question, so we're off to a great start.
Wonderful.
It's looking like almost a little over 50% said no.
Okay.
Roughly 30% definitely do not, and 15% said yes.
Okay. All right. So with eAssist, this is what we do is bring you a peace of mind to make sure you are being, you are collecting 100% what's rightfully owed to you from insurance. Okay, so on to my first tip here. First tip for 7 ways to improve your claim quality and reduce denials, adjustments, and write-offs. So make sure you have all your providers credentialed as soon as they join the practice. So don't wait. So you want to credential all your providers. Here are a few tips and tricks for that is to ensure your provider and location are credentialed. Start credentialing process as early as possible. Have an internal protocol for your schedule while your provider is waiting to be fully credentialed. You ask your insurance carrier, this is a good question, when credentialing is effective. Is it on your application date or your approved date? And then add calendar reminders for when your credentialing is 90, 60, and 30 days from lapsing. Keeping track of this is critical. You want to keep track. We recommend using a spreadsheet so you have a central place of communication. The offices I work with, I'm definitely big on spreadsheets. I like to keep tabs on each spreadsheet so that you don't have 10 spreadsheets open in a day. But this centralized communication is very beneficial to your practice because if you ever have a turnover unexpectedly, your team's not wondering what was going on with one of your Delta dental contracts or anything like that. You have that central place to go look it up, see who last spoke with someone, that representative number, a call number, the date, so that I recommend you call and follow up on your credentialing every 2 weeks. Insurance companies are notorious for losing information. So make sure you are keeping track and regularly following up. As I mentioned, I recommend every 2 weeks. The internal protocol may look different from office to office. Most commonly, the uncredentialed provider will bill out treatment under the practice owner's NPI until fully credentialed. The information on the spreadsheet should have your insurance name, list each provider in the practice. If multiple locations, then you need to list those individually with the insurance phone number. So you're contacting the same department each time and not searching for who did you last speak with? I don't know what department they're in. And then date for when each call was made, your representative's name of who you spoke with, and then the due date for re-credentialing. And this will help you stay up on that and not have to wonder and spend a lot of wasted time trying to find that information. I'll share a little experience I recently had with one of my offices that I consult with. Randomly, one of our associates had gotten dropped on EFT payments. And it turned out, after hours of phone calls between the insurance company and their third-party processing company, they hadn't been communicating with each other. Unfortunately, we got the short end of the stick, but we did get everything corrected. And within that same week, we were able to be back receiving those EFT payments. And so You want to just keep track of those things. You want to keep track on a spreadsheet. That's very helpful. Number 2 of ways to improve your claim quality and reduce denials, adjustments, and write-offs is to submit on the most current ADA form. And so the most current ADA form, little pro tip here, is the 2019 format. So check with your practice management software for possible updates if that claim format isn't available. Want to make sure that you are able to submit correct claim form. Signs that your claims may not be on that correct claim format. 3 things here I have listed is if your claims are being rejected by your clearinghouse. If you're continually having insurance companies tell you they don't have your claim on file. And if your aging report is ballooning out of control. A little important note, insurance companies may not tell you if your claim format is out of date or incorrect on the EOB, so you'll want to double check that yourself. And pro tip here for you that I've added is you need to make sure that your practice management software is compatible with your clearinghouse. This can also stop claims from being processed. So check with your practice management software technical support team that you're using, and they'll be able to make sure that you are using a compatible clearinghouse to submit your dental claim forms. Okay, number 3 ways to improve your claim quality and reduce denials, adjustments, and write-offs is to use the correct CDD codes for procedures completed. You want to make sure you are taking that time to really be sure you are aware of the correct CDD code. 3 tips that I offer is use the CDD code that best describes the treatment rendered. With recent coding changes and additions, best practices is to match the CDT code with the nomenclature. Second is to specify teeth numbers, quadrants, or arches if the CDD code requires it. And third, using the correct CDT code on the claim opens the door for more successful appeals if the service is denied. So very important tips right there, first off. And if you have any questions about coding, one of my favorite coding books to use is Coding with Confidence. There are many other resources you can pick from. If you want to learn more about them, you can reach out to Business Solutions team at henryschein.com, and they will absolutely be happy to support you in finding out that additional information on coding and how that can really help you be sure you're starting off with the correct code on claim submission. All right, we are at number 4 of ways to improve your claim quality, reduce denials, adjustments, and write-offs. So maximize your claim refunds. Again, if you're having questions right now, please feel free to drop questions in the Q&A. I'm really happy to answer any questions you have as you're hearing me at this time. So maximize your claim refunds. The insurance EOB will state if a non-covered service can be billed to the patient with the office fees. If there is no PPO discount on non-covered procedures, the patient is then responsible for 100% of the office fee. So does your practice charge out full office fees or PPO fees on your ledger? Do you know what you charge out? Go ahead and share in the chat so we can discuss the pros and cons of billing out on your patient ledger, the PPO fees or the UCR fees. A little pro tip here. Recommend post the PPO or the agreement fee to the patient ledger, but bill the UCR and the insurance claim to the insurance company, and this will give you more accurate monthly production numbers and less credit adjustments later. So billing the UCR fee on the insurance claim allows the office to not miss out on increase of payment for the procedure and allowing the provider and office to maximize the insurance payment refund if unaware of a possible payment increase. I'm going to add a little side note here. It is extremely important to annually update your insurance contracted fee schedules in your practice management software. Again, another way to keep essential communication on this process being completed is to have a spreadsheet where you'll track who you've contacted as far as which insurance and when you requested that fee schedule to be sent to you via fax or mail. And then when that fee schedule is updated in your practice management software, go ahead and add that to your spreadsheet. So again, you can see and know where you're at, and it's not all that pressure and weight of wondering, I don't remember if I already asked this insurance. I thought I asked for it. It's been a week. It's been a month. Life is busy. We get it. So spreadsheets are very helpful to help keep track of that information and communication for all team members. If your office is looking to be fee for service, so that's going away from PPO contracts, you would be more interested in posting your UCR fees to your patient ledgers. This will allow you to see what money you are losing and which insurances you may possibly want to ditch first. So every office has its own goals and its own path, so pick what fits your path best. And if you have questions about this, again, put it in our Q&A, and you're also welcome to reach out to eAssist at any time, and we can, of course, answer any questions on how this all works. So number 5 of 7 ways to improve your claim quality and reduce denials, adjustments, and write-offs is to submit under the correct rendering provider. Submitting your claims under correct provider. 3 tips is to check all the claims for the correct credentialing rendering provider before sending. Number 2, if the rendering provider is an associate provider, confirm the billing provider is correct on the claim before sending. And last but not least, hygienists are not a rendering provider that need to be listed on the claim. The doctor that performs the exam is the rendering provider. So on your claim format, you have 3 sections to review. You have your billing provider, your rendering provider, and your pay-to provider. And it's your rendering provider is going to be the one you would switch to whomever did the exam. So keep that in mind when you are reviewing your claims for submission, that you are billing out under the correct rendering provider. Here's a pro tip for you. Create a provider code, for example, LS01, in your practice management software system so you can pull accurate numbers for reporting commission-based associates. And how this works is, say you have 3 providers, 1 owner, 2 associates. And if your associate's treatment is being billed under the provider, the tip for tracking the associate's production is to create that provider code for easily pulling the production and collection reporting. Is this helpful? Let me know. Put that question that you're having in the Q&A so we can review that. We'd love to know if there's further requests of knowledge on this. And we are on to our 6th way to improve your claim quality, reduce denials, adjustments, and write-offs. This one is always have accurate patient and insurance information. It's a big one, right? The quality of your insurance verification is directly correlated to the quality of your claims. The number one reason why claims don't get processed is due to incorrect patient and or insurance information, which is very, very true. For all of those on this webinar now that work with billing, you know the pain of this when you have to call a patient, ask them for additional date of birth information or anything. So it is very important that we get that insurance information, patient information accurate at the beginning. 65% of offices are insurance driven. Reviewing this information for accuracy is crucial to your healthy revenue cycle management. So 3 things here to look at and to keep in mind when your patient comes in is to have a copy of their insurance card and photo ID on file. You want to check all claims for the correct patient information. So that's their legal name. Oftentimes we get kids coming in and mom puts their nickname down. We've all seen it. We want to make sure we double check that for their legal name, the full legal name. And if it's a junior or a senior in the family line, that is recorded with the insurance that same way also. Date of birth, insurance, ID number, etc. And then check all claims for correct insurance information, which is the insurance address, insurance group number, insurance payer ID. So store the company or the copy of the insurance card in a central location. If you're using Dentrix, it's going to be in the document center. So again, you have that central place of communication that all team members know where to go to have that information to access. Oftentimes it just happens, we transpose a number. If you're putting a phone number in or an address in, accidentally forget a letter of a name. So again, having a copy of their photo ID as well as the insurance card really helps minimize those instances where you have to call the patient and gather more information. It's also imperative to have the subscriber ID and the social security number. Majority of the insurance companies do require the subscriber ID. However, if you do have it to call the insurance and ask for some information and you're missing a piece of information and you do have the social security number, they will continue to help you with whatever the reason your call is. Typically, it's for verification of benefits. So take note, this still does need to be done in offices where you do not accept PPO plans, but you are courtesy billing the insurance company for your patients. You do want to make sure, since this is a courtesy, you do a thorough job at gathering all the insurance information so you can submit everything accurately on the first time. That first submission for reimbursement really will help keep your patients happy and get their payment to them timely. Here's a pro tip. If you are resubmitting a claim with requested additional information, which we all know, insurances always do this. Randomly, you get requests for additional information that you know was originally with the submission. You want to include corrected claim and the claim number in the remarks section of your ADA claim. This will prevent your claim from being rejected by the clearinghouse as a duplicate. Okay, so take note of that. Again, these slides will be sent to you so you can have these pro tips to really help increase your bottom line and lower the stress in your office. All right, and number 7 of our ways to improve claim quality, reduce denials, adjustments, and write-offs is don't forget to include documentation and attachments. So this is the timely process that we want to make sure is thoroughly done in the clinical room as well as on the claim. So be squeaky clean. Soap. Don't have to be covered in head to toe with bubbles, meaning you don't need to write a novel, but you do need to make sure you have good documentation. And I'll share with you, for those that don't know what soap means, here we go. Soap, the first letter S, subjective. What is the patient's complaint? Why did they make this dental appointment to be seen? What are they telling you? What's the present illness, location, severity, any words they're saying of how long the pain is lasting for? We want to document that. The objective, the vital signs. What are you seeing? Examination findings. What are your x-rays showing? And then, of course, health history update. It's really important that patients do a health history update yearly. I'm sure all of you are doing that, but it is really helpful, especially with our older patients that start to get new diagnosis of different aging things. It's good for you to be aware of in that area too. And then assessment, diagnosis, reasoning evidence behind diagnosis if applicable. So what do you recommend? What are you seeing needs to happen to resolve this problem? And the plan, how are you going to, how is the provider going to treat this patient's concern? What are you going to do your treatment plan for? So this all needs to be documented in your clinical notes. And here's something also to be sure of when you are reviewing your clinical notes is that you do have the signature of your rendering provider in your clinical note, as well as the hygienist, if applicable, and dental assistant. This solidifies Everything that was talked about is put into that clinical note. The provider is aware of it. The assistant did their part. Oftentimes, we do occasionally get asked by insurance companies to send a screenshot of the clinical documentation, and you want to make sure you have those signatures there and you're not having to stress about that. All right. Coming up, I've got a poll for all of you. What type of documentation are you most likely to forget? Here's 3 options I came up with: was oral cancer screening, date of prior existing restoration. Do you forget to ask your patient that? And TMJ, are you checking for the TMD disorder? Go ahead and put which one you think either your office forgets the most, or if you're a provider, what you find slips your mind. I think this will be an interesting one to find out. I know, being a dental biller, I've seen a lot of missing prior existing restorations. How are we doing, Adam?
So this one is a runaway. If you had to guess, which one would you think was the runaway answer?
Oh, the one I said, date of prior existing restoration.
That is correct.
Let's just say I've been in dentistry for quite a few years, and I've seen this. And so good poll to take. Thank you for everyone for participating. Good side note to double check with yourself. Are you falling in that category? Do you find that you need to do a little better job at reminding your team to ask that question, or yourself as the provider? That was a fun one. Thank you, everyone. Okay, back to our SOAP notes. Critical supportive clinical documentation. Here are 5 different things that need to be done to support your clinical documentation. First one is current perio charting within the last 12 months. Make sure you're got a system in place with your hygiene department that this is being done. Current pre-op x-rays. 3 things there is bitements within the last 12 months, PAs within the last 2 months, and a Panorex film within the last 5 years. The bitements and Panorex are actually a great way to increase your production and beneficial for you to make sure those are on file, to have to reference to at any time if a patient comes in and you want to see if it should have been caught 2 months ago when they were in for their cleaning. But also, it's a great service to your patients to have those to check. So make sure you are doing those regularly. Pre-op and post-op intraoral photos. These are phenomenal for billing and having those attached. What you see with the naked eye versus what doesn't show up on the x-ray, as you all know, really, really helps the insurance company underwriters be able to see what you're seeing and help get that claim paid on that first submission. Pre-op and post-op x-rays for endo treatment, crown seats, and extractions, those are required to have with submission of the dental claim, and pre-op x-rays for the dentures. Here's a pro tip for you. The date of prior placement of a crown bridge or denture is required information needed for a claim that is replacing an existing restoration. So that's why I put that poll in there, is to really help make sure we're driving that in, that in those clinical notes, dental billers can find that information to submit with the claim. So again, it is processed and paid, keeping your cash flow consistent from the insurance companies. If you have any questions on this, don't forget we've got that Q&A. Please drop those in. I'd love to answer any questions. This is what eAssist is great at, is our dental insurance billing services. Really help take that weight off of the office, the front staff, allow them to dedicate more of their time to your in-office patients. Make sure your claims are getting paid in a timely manner. So don't let your claims pile up. Sending clean claims daily ensures timely reimbursements and steady cash flow for your practice, right? That's what we all love to work. I know we do, but we don't want to work for free, right? So make sure your claims aren't piling up, that you are staying consistent with submitting those to insurance. So delivering a peace of mind with eAssist, that is our goal, is to improve your bottom line and lower your stress. And that's what we do. We've been doing it for a lot of years. I've been able to work with a lot of amazing offices, and I love the feedback. It really helps myself to feel like I'm giving some good, and I appreciate that when I get those opportunities. So on to another poll. Would you like to be contacted by our team for a complimentary demonstration of eAssist dental billing services? Yes, please, or no thanks. We would love to answer any questions. We have a fabulous sales team that are very knowledgeable. They can answer your questions. And if they don't have the answers, the great thing is about eAssist, we are like a plethora of knowledge, and we can share our tips and tricks with each other. We're able to answer questions for one another at a drop of a hat, which really helps serves you in the office reach your goals. All right, Adam, how's our poll looking? Everyone answer?
We're working on it. I'm going to leave it up for a little more. We've got about 50% of answers.
Let's
so
do
you
it.
can
Thank you.
keep powering on.
Okay. So also, as I mentioned earlier, I'm part of our eAssist Dental Coaching Institute team. We have a wonderful group of knowledgeable consultants, coaches who support your team in aligning your systems and protocols. You can also reach out to eAssist, and we can give you more information about helping systemize your office so there's more accountability, more consistency, which really helps everybody be on the same page. All right. Before we start our Q&A, I just want to thank everybody for taking the time again to join this webinar. It's been exciting for me. I love dental. It's an always learning field. I learn a lot from all those I work with, which is great. I find it, I thrive off of that, I should say. But recently I was headed home from a flight of visiting one of my consulting offices, and the airline stewardess went through her little spiel that they do. And one of the things she said at the end was, go out and do something good, not because you have to, but and not because you're expecting anything in return, but because it's the right thing to do and it feels good to do it. And I thought that was a great note that she gave, is to remind us after what we've all been through this last year. We're all in the same season of life. We're all trying to work through this. So find a way to serve and give opportunity for growth in your life and those around you. And we can all continue to meet our goals and dreams. I really believe in karma. And so with that being said, it looks like we have some questions in the queue here. Adam, I'll let you read those.
Awesome, thank you. Yep, we've got plenty of time left here, so if you have any questions, drop them in the chat or Q&A. We've already got a bunch queued up for you, so we'll get right into it.
Okay.
The first one is, how do I check to find out if I'm billing out PPO or UCR fees?
So that's going to be according to your practice management software. Really, I recommend contacting your technical support department and ask them that question of how to pull that report. Where I don't know which practice management software you use, I unfortunately can't guide you. But again, you're welcome to reach out to eAssist at any time, and we can also guide you through that too, knowing a little more of your office information.
Great. And before you continue, do you want to flip to the next slide so the contact info is up there?
Happy to, yes. And also Henry
Thank
Schein
you.
Business Solutions team. They'll also be very happy to help guide.
Perfect. All right. Next question here. Just a side note. Sometimes insurance company has the incorrect patient date of birth, which was submitted to insurance incorrectly by the patient's employer. We do not have time to wait for employer to correct the problem. Do you have any recommendations?
Yes, I do have a recommendation. Reach out to your patient and ask them to contact their HR and give them a timeline. That's okay. Just say, we need to have this resolved within the next 2 weeks if you could, and have them reach out to their HR. Their HR will correct that with the insurance. And typically right then the insurance will go ahead and reprocess that claim for payment. If you feel like you can't wait that 2 weeks, you're welcome to let the patient know. They can contact the insurance through and their HR, have that corrected, and the reimbursement can go to the patient, and you can go ahead and bill them for those services, and they can pay you. And that's going to be what best fits for your practice needs. But I definitely recommend giving the patient a minute to contact their HR, have their HR fix that with the insurance so that that claim can be processed and reimbursed to your practice.
How much trust can you put in adjustment info provided on the EOB? I feel like I can't always trust the info they send. Some will list an adjustment for a non-covered service.
If you ever have questions, contact the insurance. Oftentimes, you'll get representatives that don't quite understand what you're asking, and that's okay to go ahead and ask for a supervisor that can break it down. But run your numbers, know your contract if you are in or out of network with that insurance company. That would be my recommendation, but don't hesitate to contact the insurance. The other option is, e-assist. This is something we're great at and what we do, and we're able to support you and take that load off your plate. But don't hesitate to call your insurance and ask for understanding of what their EOB means.
All right. I forget which number these next couple pertain to. So,
Okay.
um, what do you do if the patient forgets when the crown was placed?
Have them give you a ballpark, honestly. And then when you put in your remarks section when the existing restoration originally was done, add the words according to the patient so that it takes that accountability off of your plate and puts it strictly on the patient. So if it's January of 2009, put in your remarks according to the patient, original crown was placed January 2009.
How long does it take to get an associate doctor credentialed?
Well, that can take up to 90 days. Every insurance is different. So your spreadsheet of tracking this is going to be extremely helpful. So when you make that call to credential an associate, you can make notes of that. It takes X amount of time. And then as you credential any further associates, you'll know what to expect from there, but anywhere from 60 to 90 days. And again, it's really important to thoroughly follow up every 2 weeks. Because as we all know, when you work with an insurance company, they magically lose information. And so as you've been waiting there for 30 days thinking they were processing all of the associates' information, they haven't been, and you've wasted some time. So again, that 2 weeks touch base is really critical to make sure they're doing their part to get your provider credentialed as soon as possible.
How would we go about updating our fee schedule with participating providers?
Sure. Again, make a spreadsheet, know who you're a contracted PPO with, make a list of those insurance names in your spreadsheet, and then you'll just call the provider's relation line, let them know you need an updated fee schedule for 2021. Typically, they'll fax it to you, give them your fax number, make sure you get a name of who you spoke with, a reference number for the call, and how long to expect until you do receive that. So if it's been a week and they said it will only take 2 to 3 days to get that to you, you know when you can call them back and let them know I didn't receive it. Can you please go ahead and fax that again? I've found when you say those please and thank yous and use those polite words, you'll get further quicker. So that's a side note tip too, is to make sure you're cordial and not frustrated when they don't do their part like they say they're going to.
Are surgical assistants or nurses required to sign progress or anesthesia records?
I'm not qualified to answer that kind of question, but if you reach out to business solutions team at henryschein.com, they'll be able to either guide you to a resource that can give you that information. The dental assistant really just has to initial when the provider does treatment. Typically, I find on the anesthesia, they'll do all their own notes, and the assistant doesn't need to do anything with that. But again, reach out to business solutions team at henryschein.com. Definitely, they'll be able to guide you to the right resource.
I think you answered this partially, maybe fully, but I'm amazed how many patients forget when they had prior work completed and by whom. How do you handle that?
Again, that's okay. Just ask them for a ballpark idea. Tell them it's just so that you can appease the insurance and give them a date. Because if you have no date, you know they're not going to pay anything. So let them know, was there an event around that time that you can think of that happened? Someone get married? Did you take a trip? When was that trip? And just try to trigger a memory of some sort to help them associate when that possibly could have been done. And again, in your remarks for the documentation, put according to the patient, original crown, original bridge, whatever the procedure was completed, and then when they said.
Do you recommend billing crowns on the seat date?
Most offices I found do that, but what you can do is when you do your insurance verification, ask the insurance if they pay on the crown prep date or the crown seat date. And then you can decide what best fits for your practice. If it's easier just to do it consistently one way, or if you do want to do it according to when the insurance will pay, that's going to have to be what your office finds is most beneficial. The risk you run when you do submit on seat date is if your patient just all of a sudden says, my temporary feels amazing, I don't need to go get that real crown. And then you never get that reimbursement because they don't come in. Or it qualifies later on for timely filing because the claim wasn't submitted when it was supposed, within that timely filing frame. So again, it's something you want to discuss in your office, what works best. I've seen it both ways. Just do your part to ask insurance on the insurance verification of when they pay is on crown prep or crown seat so that you know what you want to do. I hope that answers that question.
How can you post? Oh, yes. How can you post the PPO fee to the patient but bill out the UCR?
Sure, that's a setting in your practice management software. So reach out to your technical support with your practice management software and they'll guide you through how to set that up properly.
Are we allowed to not submit a non-covered code to an insurance company that we participate with?
That I can get an answer to. If it's non-covered, I always still recommend submitting it to appease the patient. But again, that's going to be what your contract says you have to do. So know your insurance contract, know what they will allow and won't allow. Call your insurance, ask for the providers specialist, and they'll be able to answer that question with that group plan, what that requirement is.
Submitting indentrix, where is the best way to add on the claim an original seat day, and if we are submitting a replacement?
So in Dentrix, when you're in the patient ledger, you're going to double click on that created claim, and there's a section that says remarks. That is where you're going to add all your clinical documentation to submit to insurance so they understand what the patient was feeling, why the treatment needed to be done. It's a condensed version of your SOAP notes. And that's also where you will add C attachments because you want to make sure that they do check that you have your pre-op and post-op x-ray attached, as well as that is where you'll add when the original restoration was completed information.
What are the best reports from my software that I should be looking at, and how often to measure collections health? What KPIs should I track?
Sure. We recommend a variety of KPIs. This is a great question, and I would love to share more with you. You're welcome to reach out at coaching@eassist.me, and any of our consultants will review that information with you. And again, we're here to help everybody rise and grow, reduce that stress, and increase your bottom line. You're also welcome to reach out to Business Solutions team at henryschein.com, and they'll send you over to us also. Then we can ask a few more questions and get a little bit more detail of what's going on with your practice.
We don't currently accept EFT or direct deposit payments from the insurance, but what is the best way to track those if we were to consider doing this?
Well, if your question is tracking, is if you're checking them daily, if you're checking them twice a day, if you're checking between your bank account and are they being posted to your patient ledger, the best way to track that, like I said, I'm a fan of spreadsheets, but you will want to, whomever is tracking this, have access to just view your bank account so they can make sure those funds did actually go into the account before they are posted to the ledger. Or if you have an accountant, your accountant will have access to be sure at your month end that they do see those same EFT postings to your patient ledgers as recorded in your bank account. So there's a couple of options there of how you can track that. Sounds like you are purely just doing checks right now, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to get paid faster, then the EFT is a great option, but it's personal preference. I've worked with a lot of offices that just do checks because it simplifies their follow-up tasks and things like that, and it's cleaner for them. And then of course there's your offices that want those EFTs to get paid as soon as possible. Not a problem. Just make sure you do have a system in place where you're doing that accountability between what's in the bank and what's been posted to your patient ledger, and those match.
I am an endodontist opening a startup office and would like to incorporate your service. The
Well,
most common case of uncollected accounts I've seen in other specialty offices is the case that their claims from general offices were in the pipeline and at the time of verification was not included. Therefore, the patient's portion would end up being more and has to be collected later. Do you have any suggestions to prevent that?
no way you can prevent that, unfortunately. The insurance company, when you call and get insurance breakdowns, they're not going to see what's in the pipeline, and they won't tell you. So, what I recommend you do when you are doing a treatment plan with a patient is that you verbalize or have it written down on your treatment plan that anything that's currently being processed from their general practice, their general dentist, you won't be aware of those annual decreasement, and there could be an additional balance after insurance has processed and paid this claim for payment. So verbalize it, but also have it in writing. Have your patient sign that treatment plan so that they do understand. You only know what you know, and insurance is only going to give you what they know, and they need to be aware of
Still got a lot of questions here,
that.
chugging right along.
Okay.
Um, can you please share your thoughts on primary and secondary insurance on processing claims?
Yeah, absolutely. So never submit a secondary claim until you have received your primary claim. It won't get paid. It holds things up. Um, it makes things a little more hairy on your aging report. So make sure your primary claim gets paid in a timely manner. Make sure you are taking that primary EOB and attaching it to your secondary claim and submitting that. And that's how you'll get it processed and paid in a timely manner.
Your slide said that PAs need to be within 2 months. Number one, is that the new protocol? Um, I was under the impression it was within 12 months. And number two, if it is 2 months, should we be updating them if they are over 2 months old?
So 2 months is a suggestion we recommend for a problem area. Then that way, if something's changed, you have evidence of why maybe your treatment had changed, or you can reference to it. It's not the protocol, it is a recommendation that we have. So great question.
How current do pre-op x-rays need to be for crowns?
For crowns, you want them at least within 6 months. If it's older than a year, you won't insurance won't use those as validated preoperative x-rays. But if that's all you have, we'll send it, or you can send it with. But again, you want it within 6 months. Absolutely.
All right. Two-part question here. Part one, do fee schedules come out before January? And part two, when should we be asking for updated fees to make sure they are input?
Absolutely. Great question. Every insurance is different. I wish I could tell you if there's a deadline they all have to hit, and there's not. Some insurances, they'll send it out before the new year, and that's great. We appreciate that. Most don't. Most don't send them out until actually February or March. So in January, you can start requesting them, but they will tell you they don't have it ready. I always recommend come the middle of February to make sure you're thoroughly following up on those weekly, that you have them and they're entered in. But again, on your spreadsheet, put that in your notes so that you know by the following year, you can reference back to the prior year and say, oh, it looks like Aetna sends theirs out on March 1st, Cigna sends theirs out in the middle of February, and that will help you know when you can expect those. And what was the second part? Did I answer that one?
When should we be asking for updated fees to make sure they're input?
Right, as I mentioned, and by the first to the middle of February, make sure you are running through all your PPO contracts and requesting those updated fees.
I have a lot of problems with electronic claims being submitted, and they appear to have been submitted correctly, meaning they do not show up on a submission report showing an issue. Then 6 months later, when the patient returns, I see the claim has not been paid yet. I call the insurance company and they say they never received it. Drives me crazy, and I know I can find it on a report, but why is this happening when all of the information is entered incorrectly?
Right. You know, this is what we're good at with eAssist is we follow up on those untimely paid claims every 14 to 21 days. And so that's what I recommend you do in your office is have a system in place where those unpaid claims, your aging report is thoroughly followed up on. When you call the insurance and ask, you know, where the payment is for that date of service, and they say they haven't received it, run through if you have your correct payer ID. Make sure they have the correct date of birth, the correct spelling of the name. And then the other thing, as I mentioned in my slides, is make sure your clearinghouse is compatible with your practice management software. You do want to make sure of that. That can really hold your claims up for being paid and not getting dropped. Some insurances don't accept electronic claim submissions, so you might not be aware of that and you need to drop them to paper. And some may accept them as fax. And so get that information. This is all great information to keep on a spreadsheet of which insurances do and don't take EFT. They may not take attachments, so make a note of that also. Those are all thorough ways to keep track of your claim processing procedures. But again, you do want to follow up on those regularly so when patients are coming back at 6 months, you're not frantic of why they have a balance owing. And the other thing too is if their insurance terminated and the patient just didn't tell you that, you can get that information, correct it, get that resent off to the correct insurance company and not hit timely filing.
Patients don't know which one is primary or secondary insurance. How do you go about that?
Right, that happens often. And there's a few ways. Sometimes it's the birthday rule. So whoever's older, or excuse me, has the birthday first in the year, that will be for the dependents. As far as the two adults, their own insurance will always be primary and their spouse will be secondary. But call their insurance and ask them for a breakdown of benefits and then let them know this plan, this person has a secondary insurance. And sometimes you can just ask them, do you know if you're secondary or primary with this patient? And they'll know. They have it in their records because of the HR. So don't ever hesitate to ask those questions to the representative. And if they don't understand what you're asking, because it does happen, go ahead and ask for a supervisor. Never hesitate to ask for a supervisor. It'll save you a lot of headache and time often and not waste your time.
Do you have a suggestion for when to do pre-authorization? Is it a dollar amount or case by case?
And it's office preference, but most insurances do recommend any case over $300 to do a pre-authorization. If you feel like you don't understand the patient's benefits very well and they don't also, a pre-authorization is very helpful. If you feel like this patient can't, if you're concerned about the treatment plan cost and you really want to be sure they're 100% committed to pay their portion, go ahead and send a treatment plan, a pre-authorization, so that you do have an exact number you're working with. and also if it's even a covered benefit. So again, it's going to be personal preference in the office and what system you guys want to put into place that works best for your demographics.
Can you share your thoughts on how to work with out-of-network claims where the insurance company pays to the patients directly and not to the office? Do you collect beforehand or wait for the insurance settlement?
Absolutely collect full amount at the time of service. You don't want to be chasing down money. Go ahead and charge the patient the amount in office. Let them know your insurance will be reimbursing you. We'll submit your claim as a courtesy, as well as follow up, because that is what you're essentially doing when you take on a submission of claim. You also are agreeing you're going to follow up to make sure it got paid. So do that courtesy to your patient, and we want to make sure they get their payment. And if there's any questions after that, please feel free to reach out to Business Solutions team at henryschein.com, and they'll send you over to eAssist, and we can further review what we recommend for fee-for-service offices.
We sometimes have issues with twins with the same date of birth, even when we write in remarks that they are in fact twins. However, that doesn't always work. Any
Right.
suggestions?
My suggestion is to be very thorough on consistently following up on those claims. Don't hesitate to speak to a supervisor who can actually push it through correctly to the underwriters for processing. Unfortunately, there's not a ton of tips and tricks with twins, except for just to put that in there. Oftentimes, children have the same really close names as each other, and that's really confusing when they pay for the incorrect date of service for the incorrect family member. So you have to do corrected claims and things like that. But as far as with twins, I recommend you just at 2 weeks, when you know they have the claim on file, go ahead and give them a call, make sure it's under processing, speak to a supervisor if it's not getting pushed through, and just stay on top of it. You can always ask the subscriber to call in and talk to insurance, and they can get far with insurance also. Don't hesitate to ask your patients to be involved when they have twins and you have those situations occur.
What if the patient is the policy holder on both plans of insurance in a dual insurance scenario?
Happens all the time. Happens all the time. So go ahead and call both insurances. Again, don't hesitate to ask the insurance if they know if they're primary or secondary. If they don't, contact the patient, ask them to contact their HR and ask which of the policies they have in their system as primary and secondary. Go ahead and ask those questions. It will save you a lot of headache and time. It might feel like a little work on the front end, but in the long run, it's going to help make sure your claims you're submitting as a courtesy do get processed and paid in a timely manner.
Let's see. Is there a way to dispute downgrades on crowns with insurance, especially when they are not forthcoming with the downgrade info?
And unfortunately, there's not much you can do about what their contract does and doesn't allow. Um, just get those insurance verifications completed very thoroughly so your patient is aware what their portion is going to be, and their insurance does downgrade.
You had mentioned a coding tool. Can you refresh us on what that was?
Yeah, it's called Coding with Confidence. If you reach out to Business Solutions team at henryschein.com, they'll be able to guide you to that Coding Confidence with Bullock by Dr. Charles Blair. It's a really good and helpful tool.
We're getting to the end here. Let's see. Do you charge the patient based on the patient's? Oh, there we go. Do you charge the patient based on the patient's responsibility from primary or secondary insurance?
So it's actually the lowest contracted fee. That's where you base off. So when you run the numbers, you go off the lowest contracted fee, and from there is what your patient portion will be.
All right, this one goes back to when you brought in the hygienist for one of the numbers. What if the hygienist is working without the doctor in the office?
What if the hygienist is working without the doctor in the office? I would recommend you reach out to your HR company if you have a consulting company and ask them if that's okay to do. Reach out to Business Solutions team at henryschein.com. They'll also be able to give you more information on that. I don't feel like I'm qualified to answer that for you.
How can we recoup our funds if the insurance company pays the insured instead of the practice?
Send them a statement. Be consistent, right? So if you find that out, payment went to the patient, not to the office, go ahead and close that claim. Where you won't have a copy of the EOB, you're not going to know if you need to do any adjustments, unfortunately. So do ask the patient for a copy of that EOB so you can make sure you have the correct fees on your ledger. So, and let them know it's because we want to make sure we're not, we're charging you the correct amount as far as remaining after insurance has paid. And then go ahead and ask for payment. Be consistent. Consistently follow up with a statement with phone calls, and don't be afraid to send patients to collections. I know that sounds like a nasty word, but offices don't owe patients anything. It's a service that you're great at and you do a good job at and you provide, and nobody works for free, right? We love what we do and we love the dental industry, but we also all have a living we need to make. So don't hesitate to be consistent on that follow-up, as well as use your collection agency if you need to.
All right, we got 3 questions left that I'm seeing, and they're all fee related, so we're gonna knock them out. The first one we get a lot, so I'd love your opinion. Why does Delta Dental keep their fees so low?
I have no idea. There's so many dentals. There's so many Delta Dentals, and employers subscribe to use that insurance plan for their employees. So maybe if we could get less employers to use Delta Dental. That's a great question. Reach out to business solutions team at henryschein.com and maybe they'll be able to guide you to us, or they'll have answers to how we can fight that.
Like I said, we get that question often. When should you negotiate fees?
When should you negotiate fees? I would say if you're a practice that's been around for a very long time and you haven't renegotiated your fees, that would be a good timing. Why don't you reach out to business solutions team at henryschein.com and have them guide you over to eAssist, or someone in Henry Schein may also be a good resource, but we can help you navigate what that looks like when you should do it according to where your practice currently is at.
Does eAssist negotiate fees with PPOs?
We do not offer that service.
All right, since you knocked that one out so quickly, we've got one left. If there are frequency limitations for fillings or of that nature, can we charge the patient directly and not bill insurance?
Well, it depends. If the same provider did it and it's within the 2-year time frame, or whatever that insurance contract says is that timely, or that time requirement, frequency requirement, then you're not able to. It's a redo, and that's just how it goes. If a different provider did it, then you can bill the patient for it. So you'll just need to know what that insurance contract that you have does and doesn't allow. So it's a great question to contact the insurance and ask them. And again, if you get a representative that doesn't know what the answer is, don't hesitate to request to speak to a supervisor.
All right. Well, that was fun.
Thanks, Adam.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, thanks everyone for the questions. Thanks for participating in the polls. If you have extra questions that you didn't get answered or that you think of after the fact, there's your contact info, business solutions team at henryschein.com or henryscheindental.com/eassist to learn more or schedule a consultation. Today's webinar was recorded, so that'll be sent out within 1 week of tonight. So keep a lookout for that. If you're looking for future Henry Schein webinars, henryscheindental.com/webinars for our upcoming schedule. That is all I have. So great webinar, great information, super important. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, eAssist, and thanks everyone. Have a great night.